So yeah, we watched the first trailer for Skeleton Crew, which will be starring Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru post A New Hope.
Absolute classic. Yeah, that's that joke never gets old. It's always funny.
Just like Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru.
They never got old.
Star Wars, Transformers, Godzilla, animation, whatever else. Rebels, robots, and etc.
It's Tuesday night, and Cameron and Rachel are hanging out once again, which must mean it's Starformers Zillimation night. Welcome to Rebels and Robots and etc. episode 61. I'm Cameron.
I'm Rachel.
And this is our bi-weekly chat about Star Wars and
Transformers.
And
everything else.
Well, and Godzilla.
And Godzilla. And animation.
And animation.
Currently Studio Ghibli.
Yeah, I mean, that's animation for sure.
Animation.
That animation. And that falls under animation. And then we talk about whatever else we're both interested in.
And Athena.
I mean, of course. I mean, but that's just to be. I mean, if there's a cat in the room, of course you're going to talk about him.
We got to talk about the cat in the room.
And as Rachel just referred to, we are in the middle of our 3-part Studio Ghibli series. One for Rachel, one for Cameron, and one that neither of us have seen. So this week we're on Cameron's pick.
Hot Totoro summer.
Last summer was Hot Bot summer for Transformers. This year, even though we're not talking about Totoro, let's see. Maybe we could find a common theme between the 3 movies. It's last week we talked about
hot Miyazaki's in your area.
No, see that you've gone too far from. It was Hot Girl Summer, Hot Bot Summer, Hot Miyazaki's in your area. You kind of got a little too far from the summer part that's really relevant that we're trying to capture. But last episode we did From Up on Poppy Hill, and this week we're doing Princess Mononoke, and next time we are doing. Oh no, I forgot.
Are we doing Where the Wind Rises?
I don't think so. We are doing. Had it written down at some point. It must have been 2 episodes. Here we go. Castle in the Sky is what we are doing.
A terrible place to build that.
So once we've watched that, then yeah, Sky is normally not the best piece of area for construction. Castle in the Sky is the next one we will watch. So we'll figure out our running theme is once we watch that, because neither of us have seen it, so we don't even know. But at least we can talk about that later. We're already going on way too long for this intro. It's just supposed to be a simple intro. Today we are talking about my pick, which is Princess Mononoke, which is pretty much on the exact opposite end of the spectrum from Up on Poppy Hill, which is pretty great. But also, we've got some good news. We have a Skeleton Crew trailer.
There was a bunch of news this last week with D23.
Yeah. Yes, but this is the big thing that we'll be able to talk about. But yeah, there's some announcements and stuff. Also, lack of announcements out of D23 as well as the absence of some things. And so we'll be talking about that trailer and that's is there any other big thing you want to tease, or do we just want to jump into news?
I think we should just jump in because we have so much.
Let's do it. What do you got?
So obviously the Skeleton Crew trailer released, and we finally have a release date, which will be December 3rd.
So now we just need to fill October and November.
I know.
It could have been worse. We were hoping for
more
October.
Miyazaki films.
Yeah.
Oh wait, well, we'll watch Transformers 1. We just watch more G1.
Uh-huh.
Do you know how many episodes of Transformers Prime we could probably watch in those 2 months?
Too many, probably.
All of them, I bet.
But yeah, so Skeleton Crew, right around the corner. In case we haven't talked about it before, it is created by John Watts, who directed all 3 of the Marvel Spider-Man movies. That's by far his biggest credit. And
I sure hope Tom Holland's not in it.
I don't believe he's supposed to. Also created by a man named Christopher Ford, who I don't know off the top of my head. He's got writing credits on. So he seems to be a partner with the man I was just talking about, whose name I've already forgotten, John Watts. He wrote He wrote John Watts' first 2 films before he directed Spider-Man movies. He worked on the screenplay for Spider-Man Homecoming. Then he wrote a movie I've never heard of called The Clove Hitch Killer. And then his last writing credit, this is really bad, 2021, Chaos Walking, which is the absolutely abysmal disaster with Daisy Ridley and Tom Holland, where they literally shot the ending 3 times. And it was based off a YA book where, like, for some reason I
don't even know what you're talking about.
There's only men left on Earth, and their thoughts, they can see each other's thoughts, and Daisy Ridley comes out of nowhere, and she's like the only woman there.
I would rather be shot. I'd take myself out.
Yeah, at one point, producers said the movie was literally unreleasable because of how presumably bad it was. They did eventually release it, and no one cared. Which is, I think, really unfortunate for Daisy Ridley.
Take myself out. Hey, The Young Woman in the Sea is pretty good from what I've heard.
Yeah, I would like to watch that, actually. It's her most recent Disney Plus original movie.
I'd take myself out of that situation really quick.
So this Christopher Ford guy, I don't know much about his track record outside of writing the screenplay for Spider-Man Homecoming.
Spoderman.
And one recent disaster.
So I guess depending on how you feel about Homecoming.
Sure. But he seems to be a collaborator with John Watts. So that's pretty much just the same creative force who's worked together making this show. Very clearly, to talk about the trailer, very clearly 80s family film inspired. Goonies. It has Goonies is a good one. I mean, just like the word you'd use is Amblin. Amblin is Steven Spielberg's production company. So Goonies is a good example. E.T., I mean, to use a more recent example, it's very Stranger Things.
I hope it's more Goonies than Stranger Things.
I agree. It's definitely looks softer than Stranger Things. Stranger Things is also very like horror inspired.
Yeah.
This doesn't really have any tinge of horror to it.
The official, unless Jude Law's like a maniac.
Yeah, well.
The official plot description for Skeleton Crew is: when 4 kids make a mysterious discovery on their seemingly safe home planet, they get lost in a strange and dangerous galaxy. Finding their way home, meeting unlikely allies and enemies will be a greater adventure than they ever imagined.
Yeah, it's just pretty much, it's very like, it's got like very like small town vibes. It's a lot of lens flare. It's very J.J. Abrams, like the kind of stuff J.J. Abrams made pre-Star Wars, like especially his movie Super 8. The kids are all pretty young. They look like 8 to 10 years old-ish. I'm just choosing one of these random actors. It does not have their birthday on it. But yeah, so pretty much group of kids. Jude Law as... He's not
one of the children.
So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's probably in his 50s. Jude Law, one of my favorite actors. Talented Mr. Ripley. Grand Budapest Hotel.
Dumbledore.
Young, sexy Dumbledore. He's the villain in Captain Marvel. He is? Yeah, he's like her like mentor character.
That was Jude Law?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Man.
And he was Watson in the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes movies. He did Gattaca is another one of my favorites. He's just been around a long time. Very attractive man. Most often frequently used, at least when he was younger, he was like so attractive it was almost like scary, and that's often how he's used as like someone like who uses their attractiveness as like a weapon against people. In his older age, his age has kind of softened him a little bit.
The term is silver fox.
Well, he's not. I don't think he has much gray though. He's got more like relatable professor vibes to him, and that's why he was Dumbledore. I mean, that's 100%. So I mean, the Dumbledore
Please show up
part
to
was really
class
good
vibes.
for him. And so I get the sense from just that we know nothing about his character in this movie. The sense I'm getting is he's someone who trained in the Force. He's about the age. He's probably, if I had to guess,
he's Balin Scroll's brother.
Is that a theory? I've not heard that.
I don't know. I'm very curious about the crackpot theories, though, of people who are going to just assume he's related to someone.
I'm trying to see if we have any official confirmation on when this takes place.
I'm fairly certain it takes place after episode 6.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, imagine the Mandalorian shows up.
Which makes me think, oh man, I'm sure this is the theory. He seems to me about the same age as Cal Kestis. I really doubt that he's Cal Kestis, but you never know. You would think that would be a weird thing to hide. I doubt that would not be a very good twist right now.
Not with Cameron Monaghan not even making a live action.
Yeah, it would be weird. It would, but you know what? They at one point, someone who was working on the person who was originally supposed to like create the next Star Wars movie with Rey wanted it to be Helen Mirren, who's like in her 80s. Like they wanted to really
because they
jump
wanted
on the
old
road.
Rey.
Yeah, so like that is the closest example I can think of. It has been floated around, but no, they're not gonna.
I would actually be devastated if they brought. We're gonna bring live action. We're gonna bring Cal Kestis to the big screen, but it's not Cameron Monaghan.
But there is actually there is a character name given. It's a very silly name, Jod Na Nawood.
That just sounds like Jude Law thrown through
The Star Wars filter.
Yeah.
We get a bunch of young actors that I don't recognize because they're like 10 years old.
I'm okay with that. I'm fine with not
absolutely.
having super popular children
Absolutely.
in this. I think it'll give them a chance to really be the role outside of, because I think unfortunately, like when a child actor makes it big, when they're in something else, you're like, I'm gonna use Tom Holland for example. Like that's just Spider-Man.
Yes. And then, as always, you've always got a British comedian as the voice of the robot. And this time it's Nick Frost, who's one of my personal favorites.
Oh,
he, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, World's End, Attack the Block, a lot of great...
Like Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End?
No, it's a British comedy called World's End.
Oh, that makes sense.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else people would know him from. Definitely. He's done a lot of voiced work. I think... Alien movie comedy Paul. Kind of your classic sort of sidekick guy. He was the sidekick in all those first three movies I talked about. He's kind of like the sidekick to the main character, and he'll be great. Like that. Robots are always awesome in Star Wars. He's a phenomenal actor. He'll be great. So yeah, the kids are definitely the main feature though. And there's a cool variety of kids. You've got human kids. You've got what kind of looks like the same species as Max Rebo.
Max Rebaby.
You've got a girl. Oh, sorry, I forgot my laptop's volume was still on. You've got a girl with like a visor. She might be cyborg parts, possibly. It's kind of hard to tell. Like one of the classic elements of like a 80s kids movie is that them riding their bikes, and these kids have these like kind of crappy looking speeder bikes. They are traveling around in a U-Wing, which is the main ship that they use in Rogue One, which is very cool in my mind. They discover a abandoned Jedi temple on their planet, which is pretty sick. And at some point, they somehow end up in prison.
I'll bet it's not a temple. I'll bet it's the ship.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's certainly possible.
I'll bet it's a crash ship.
Yeah, see, it's just a trailer, so we don't know what things they're saying are true or not, because they just say at the end, so at the end, they're in a little jail cell, and the key floats up, and June Law grabs it, and one of the kids says, "You're a Jedi." That doesn't mean that he is a Jedi. We don't know what he is. But great teaser trailer. I think this teaser trailer really sells the atmosphere and the aesthetic and the general like mood of it without giving too much away plot wise.
What if we see E.T. in this film? They're confirmed in the universe.
Well, I mean, you see them in Phantom Menace.
I just said they're confirmed in this universe.
Well, I'm being specific to where you see them. The only time you see them, as canonically, as far as I know.
For now.
Sure, yeah. So yeah, excited. December 3rd. So just 3 months away.
Just in time for Christmas.
So it's November, October, September. Yeah, like 3.5 months away. What?
It was interesting how you counted backwards.
What other news you got?
So also at D23, they did play an Andor Season 2 teaser trailer, which confirmed some character appearances, which I won't say because you probably don't want spoilers.
Correct.
But they did say Andor season 2 takes place over 4 years and will lead up into the events of Rogue One, which does seem to be I think originally the first season was going to have a similar layout where it was going to be like time jumps in between in between arcs. But it was one arc, so now they are going to be doing that. That's it for Andor, really. That's all the news they kind of gave for that. I'm very excited. In case you guys don't know, I really like Andor. The other important Andor-related news is that Deidre Miro finally got a Black Series figure, and she's finally available for pre-order. And I pre-ordered her, so I'm very excited. She's supposed to release in November. Live unpacking to come whenever she gets here, so you guys can listen to the ASMR, I guess. I don't know. The other news, Dave Filoni, Hatman, and Jon Favreau came out and confirmed that The Mandalorian and Grogu movie started filming a couple weeks ago.
Oh, I didn't catch that exact piece of news.
No, yes. And they confirmed it started filming, and they actually showed a very brief teaser.
That's such a bummer that is probably the only Star Wars movie we're going to get for a very long time. Because we did not get any updates on any of the other technically announced Star Wars movies.
Yeah, which is confusing. So I'm like, is Dave Filoni's Heir to the Empire film actually Mandalorian and Grogu? I'm going to be honest, I hate that name.
Mandalorian and Grogu? Oh, that's awful.
That's a horrible name. And I feel like it's named solely, it's a marketing name.
Absolutely.
It's not
100%.
a movie name, it's a marketing name.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like as soon as quote unquote baby Yoda exploded when the first season of Mandalorian came out, this was inevitable. I feel like this is what sells. This is what I mean, they're aware of. They want a Star Wars movie to make $1 billion, and to make $1 billion, you have
$1 more billion
to attract that many people.
Grogu billion dollars
to attract that.
$1 Mando lore $1 billion.
To attract the audience size to make that much money, you have to hit a lot of.
You gotta get the Baby Yoda fans.
Yeah, you have to hit. I'm trying to think of the proper way to say this. You have to get general audiences. You have to get at least a little bit of everyone, because like just the quote unquote fans is not enough to make that much money. And that's like at this point the only part of Star Wars that everyone knows that they have not exhausted. And I would say they have exhausted it, but not in the area of movies. I think it's just like the kind of like I think at this what they're looking at is what title. That's what it comes down to. What title are people or like poster? Because I am curious how many people actually know his name is Grogu. I think it's a good number, but more people know what Baby Yoda is than Grogu. But they're not going to put that, and the child never really stuck. So, I've always really given Disney the benefit of the doubt because they hire interesting people. They work even when those interesting people make weird choices, like Robert Rodriguez with the Boba Fett show, or when Disney themselves are dramatically interfering with the shows or whatever. I still felt like there was always I had a sense of excitement, even when it was going at its absolute worst. There was still always a sense of excitement for what might come next, where this might lead. This bad thing might lead to a good thing. But it really feels like we've come to a dead end. This show feels like this movie being the only thing that we know, like that and Andor, but Andor season 2 is an ending. It's gonna be great, and I'm super excited for it. But that does not have a promise of more.
Yeah,
Mandalorian and Grogu seems to be the only path forward, right? Like that seems to be the only thing they're interested in.
Yeah,
investing in.
And I feel like what all of the recent shows have really been tying up to is the return of this.
I barely nudged Rachel with my foot on accident. She acted like I set her leg on fire.
The return of Thrawn, the rise of the First Order, which I think honestly a lot of people are going to be very very interested in seeing, and I think a lot of people are hoping maybe to have actually more information about that, where all the shows seem to be leading up to. I'm going to be really I'm not intrigued. I'm going to be really confused if the rise of the First Order is detailed in The Mandalorian and Grogu.
Yeah,
does not seem like the film.
That's a good question. Yeah.
Unless this is Unless, now I did wonder about this. So because there's so, just freaking paper on the ground. So because there are all these tied up ends, one thing that I did think about is maybe that 6.5 movie that has been rumored and talked about will still happen, but maybe the way it's worked out is Disney or Filoni, I don't know, whoever said, we do want to make this happen, but we need to, maybe the Mandalorian and Grogu aren't involved.
Sure.
Maybe they thought it's too much plot points to bring in Ahsoka and Thrawn and try to put in all these characters, which if they make that decision, I think that's a great decision. I don't think it needs to be an Avengers Infinity War Endgame kind of thing. So maybe what they're doing is we're going to finish up Mandalorian and Grogu. We're going to finish up that plotline. We're giving them a different story. And then the furthering of the Return of the First Order or what happens between 6 and 7 will be its own separate plot. And if that is what I'm hoping. Let's manifest that. No, I'm kidding. That's what I'm hoping for. And I think that would probably be the best decision, because I think trying to put a movie where you're probably incorporating the original trilogy characters, Ahsoka, Thrawn, the Rise of the First Order, the Dathomirian witches, and then trying to load in Mandalorian and Grogu, I think that would just be a mess.
Yeah, I mean,
unless we see them in a like traffic cameo.
I guess the question is, I mean, now obviously Star Wars has announced things that don't come to fruition, but they did technically announce Ahsoka season 2. Ahsoka and Sabine are trapped in that other galaxy. It would be very weird to just quickly resolve that at the beginning of a Mandalorian and Grogu movie.
Exactly.
I feel like that will need to be resolved in order to continue the story.
Exactly, because there's also the whole situation with Peridia. The planet they're on is very obviously deep in the Star Wars lore. That's done their research, you know. With the statues and with Balin, which that recast will be interesting. So yeah, I think there's a lot that I'm hoping this movie has come out and they'll do it first, so that way they can not get rid of the Mandalorian and Grogu, because they're never going to do that, but they can, I don't know, figure some stuff out.
Then the question then for me, and I think they'll need to convince general audiences, is what about this movie is different than something you can already see on Disney Plus? Like, why would I pay to go to the theater to watch this?
Actually, I think Grogu's going to get kidnapped.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. So I feel like there needs to be a very strong story.
What if it's not actually the Mandalorian? It's just a random different Mandalorian. It's like Boba Fett.
Yeah.
They're just making a Boba Fett movie.
And just a person that happens to be named Grogu.
Yeah. It's one of his street children he adopted.
And maybe this is what the Mandalorian brand / character needs, is a movie that has to be focused.
Yeah.
Because that was...
I think that was a weak point with season 3.
Exactly. Season 3 is so all over the place with it's both simultaneously trying to do week by week adventures and have this bigger overarching point, and it muddled both, I think, really poorly. And I think a movie hopefully is more focused.
They kind of Jon Snowed the Mandalorian's character.
That doesn't mean anything to me. I've never seen Game of Thrones.
It's like they attempted to and this character who is consistently thrown into positions of power and not wanting to be in the positions of power. But eventually, spoilers for Game of Thrones. If you haven't watched the show or read the books, this is at your own risk. They've been out for like 20 years. And he grows into it. He doesn't like it, but he grows into it. And it's like they kind of tried to do that with Mandalorian, but then it's like they they bailed out at the very last second.
Yeah, agreed.
Third time's the charm with Bo-Katan. I think they have term limits on Mandalore.
It just however long you survive with the
the Darksaber. It doesn't exist anymore. Moff Gideon broke it.
Oh right, man. I have totally forgotten about season 3 of Mandalorian.
One of the most important not most important artifacts, but a very important artifact that spanned from Clone Wars to Rebels to Mandalorian just to get squished in the last episode. Womp womp.
There's a metaphor there for sure. Anyways, what other news you got?
I thought this was really interesting. I saw this article. I believe this is last year. A new version of the original 1977 Star Wars: A New Hope was premiering this last week in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And so this is part of a project that started in Canada where Star Wars: A New Hope will be dubbed in the Ojibwe language.
Oh,
which is the
interesting.
second most popular indigenous, according to the article. I don't know how the truth is.
Sure.
But the film's only other, and I believe this is probably I guess confirmed licensed language version is in indigenous language is the Navajo dub, which was released in 2013. So almost 11 years later, it's getting a new film, and it will be available on Disney Plus and screened in select markets. So I just thought that was cool. So
Good stuff. So, if you speak that language, send us a message and let us know how the. As if our audience isn't already niche enough. What else you got?
that's all I got.
Okay. So, Princess MonoNoke.
Princess,
directed...
Princess. I think you mean Princess MonoNoke.
I mean, that's 100% what people would say now. Absolutely.
Women in power.
Oh yeah,
in feudal Japan.
Two women of power in this movie.
Eco-friendly.
Yeah. Directed by the GOAT, Hayao Miyazaki.
Goro?
Not Goro. No. He's the GOAT. He's not the GOAT. He's the Goro. This is 1997 release, at least in Japan, as country of origin.
Movie's older than me.
It is not older than me.
It's 'cause you're
by 2
old.
years. Oh yeah, great.
Old.
This is. Let's see what where this falls in his filmography. He had directed.
I would like to say I'm not a 2000s baby. Do not associate me with them.
He had directed a lot of television, as well as Lupin the Third, Castle Cagliostro, shout out, Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, Castle in the Sky, Totoro, Kiki's Delivery Service, Poco Rosso, and this was his seventh movie. It freaking rules. It is about... I knew nothing going... So I watched this movie for the first time on the airplane ride to Ghana at the end of May.
Oh, shoot. Really?
I think I described this whenever we first said we were going to talk about it, but I'll briefly say it again. Ever since watching Totoro a few years back, and it blew my mind, I just been so hesitant to watch another Miyazaki movie, because that movie was like... They're not going to be that good. Like, after watching Totoro, I'm like, nothing is going to be that good.
You got to get out more, Cameron. You got to watch more Miyazaki films.
And then I ended up watching Castle Cagliostro, and it was great. And I was like, okay.
You'd seen half of Porco Rosso.
Well, then we watched it. I fell asleep towards the end, and I finished it later that day, or the next day after. I had very strong memories of Spirited Away. Watch that. Amazing.
The Cat Returns. You have seen that.
Cat Returned is not Miyazaki, though.
No, but it is, dude.
Watched, what I'm saying is I've slowly watched more, and every time I watch one, I'm like, oh, that one's also really good. Not Totoro, but if Totoro's a 10, 7, 8 out of 10s, they're still very good. Still some of the best animated movies I've ever seen. We went and saw Boy and the Heron. Mm-hmm. Amazing. And so it's anytime I know that I want to put myself in the best position to enjoy these movies. And for some reason on the airplane, the only thing I knew about Mononoke is I knew it was potentially a little more adult. I had a relationship of the big wolf, the big scary looking wolf on the poster. I was like, oh, I had someone had said that it was more scary or something. And I love going into movies blind. And it, for some reason, watching on that plane where on the airplane I have nothing else to do, so I'm really dialed in, and it really blew me away. It really really struck me, and it was fun to watch it again. Brief plot synopsis. I'm gonna try. So this movie is super complicated. There's, as opposed to the slice of life of From Up on Poppy Hill, which has
I think this is slice of life. What are you talking about?
not at all. This movie adds a new plot development in like every scene. Like, so what I'm saying this is to say, I cannot accurately sum up the plot of this movie. There's gonna be things that in discussing this, there's gonna be things that make no sense at all because they don't make sense while you're watching the movie. Because it's a movie that both explains a lot to you, but also is so willing to just let a thing remain unexplained, which I love about it. The movie.
The overall theme is like humanity and our relationship with the environment and like, environmentalism.
Which is like 75% of Ghibli films. So that's
the man's passionate.
You're gonna have to. You know how little that narrows it down. But it is about Ashitaki. He's the prince of a small village. It's a specific people group, and I don't have it written down here in front of me. Let me see if I can find it real quick.
Maybe only in the first 10 minutes.
Because they only say it a couple of times.
They are, I can't remember the name either, but they're not quite a conquered people, but they're a defeated people.
Yeah, they were like and they don't really ever explain fully. They were just like kind of driven out. They were like kind of wiped out. It gives it kind of this like almost Star Wars-y Episode 4 vibe of how the Jedi were wiped out. It's kind of where my mind goes. Or Zeb in Rebels, just like the trope in fantasy. That's a common fantasy trope of the last of a kind of people.
There's no callous in this one, though.
It's never really explained what is special about them, but when they're referenced in the outside world, you get a sense that there's something like kind of mystical about them. They're probably kind of a warrior people, if I had to guess. I'm really trying to see if I can find their name. I'll see if I can find it later.
They're also quite in tune with the natural world.
Yes, so they live out in the middle of the forest pretty much, and one day a demon boar comes crashing out of the woods, and Prince Ashitaka defeats it, but he is infected by the demon, and so he has to go into the rest of the world to try to find a cure to save himself, but in the process he is like exiling himself from his people.
Yeah, and they were like, go find a cure.
Oh, Emishi people. Here it is. I found it. Okay. The Emishi people.
Yeah, they're like, go find a cure, and then never come back, though. Which I always was curious if he were to get cured, hypothetically, would he be able to return?
That's a good question. The movie, I mean, spoiler alert.
The movie makes it sound like no.
The movie doesn't really have an ending. Not really.
Yeah, true. It
like the movie kind of leaves everyone just kind of where they are.
Have like a conclusion.
So the Emishi people are real. They were people who lived in parts of northern Honshu in present-day Japan, especially in the Tohoku region. The first mention of the Emishi in literature can be corroborated with outside sources dating to the 5th century.
Corroborated.
The Emishi were represented by different tribes, some of whom became allies of the Japanese. So they were like the local people of Japan to the island.
The indigenous
That's
people.
really, and that's so interesting. See, that adds that. I think this movie, what I love about it so much is if you dig into any piece of it, it just further deepens the themes. And that's a great theme of this man represents the most human version of natural, which is like the indigenous people and represents what will become a huge theme of the movie, which is the subjugation of nature. Like this is the human version of that. And the march of progress oftentimes stampedes over the indigenous people who are just kind of trying to live out their lives.
The Industrial Revolution and its consequences.
Among these Eastern savages, from the quote, the Yamishi are the most powerful. Their men and women live together promiscuously. There is no distinction of father and child. In winter, they dwell in holes. In summer, they live in nests.
Is this what is this from?
This is described in the Nihon Shoki, which presents the, I don't know.
Is this about the actual people or the movie?
This is real. This is from the Wikipedia on the real people. Some sort of Japanese chronicle of these people. They keep their arrows in not in top knots and carry swords within their clothing. Sometimes they draw together their fellows and make inroads on the frontier. Other times, they take the opportunity of the harvest to plunder the people. If attacked, they conceal themselves in the herbage. If pursued, they flee to the mountains. Therefore, ever since antiquity, they have not been steeped in the kingly civilized influences. So this sounds exactly identical to how Americans viewed the native people, especially the more like potentially aggressive native people. So there's some good context there that I like a lot. So Miyazaki said about them, I am interested in the native people of the Emishi. There are no drawings of them and no surviving customs. They don't appear in historical materials, though they have been obliterated. They were Japanese people, as it were. They had an independent state before Japan became unified. I am interested in their customs were like, but since we don't have any record, it's a blank slate, so I could do as I pleased. Great. That's a little bit... that's probably lost in translation there. There's probably a little more respect there. I thought their clothing must be like those worn by the minority tribes. They wore kind of kimono. So that's really, really fascinating. So Athena has decided to start playing with her paper, so please just ignore that. So that, I didn't even intend to go into that deep a backstory, but that's just kind of really informs what kind of movie we're dealing with. So Ashitaka leaves his village and eventually finds his way to... So the demon they figured out was a boar god or like leader who had
a ball of iron in
had a,
him.
yeah, like a bullet, pretty much a large, like a small cannonball or a large like slug from a rifle. And so they needed to find who had caused it. Like where they needed to, he's pretty much just trying to track down where the bullet may have come from, so they can figure out where the boar is from, so he can maybe find the cause and therefore maybe the cure for the demon infection. And that leads him to Irontown, a town.
Irontown. That's how it sounds like it.
And
Arn.
there he meets a woman who's the leader. Her name is Lady Eboshi. So she pretty much has this like industrial town on the edge of the forest. They've burned down quite a bit of the forest. They're at war with the boar. They wiped out all the boar who lived in that area.
They're basically at war with nature itself.
Mm-hmm. And they are currently hunting for, eventually they go hunting for the
deer god,
the forest spirit, which is represented by a deer during the day. Pretty much bigger objective is to just like expand humanity. They're the frontier of humanity. They're using modern resources,
and they're also at war with another kingdom
or just kind of people group.
I mean,
they keep calling them the samurai, pretty much.
Yeah, it didn't. So the thing too, there's a lot of different people groups in this film.
Sure.
There's Ashitaki and his clan. There is this group of people who seems to be connected to the emperor in some way. So the overarching leader of the land. And then it does seem to be maybe it's renegade, more like renegade samurai, who are also attacking, and they're trying to take over kind of like the ironworks.
Yeah, they more resemble sort of organized crime, if I had to guess, because they're like raiding villages.
Well, I mean, militaries can do that too.
Sure, fair enough. I'm not.
I think they're probably just like, what's the word? I forgot the word. Whenever someone it's like an uprising. I think almost in a way.
Sure.
A guerrilla
like
group,
a resistance, maybe.
Yeah, guerrilla resistance.
I'm now realizing that we failed to set the time for this. It feels like 19th century because they have
maybe.
I see that the thing about it is like it's in rural Japan, which can make it feel maybe older than it actually is. That we don't ever get an exact year. It's definitely like pre-electricity, but it's definitely within the Industrial Revolution because they have iron, they have rifles, they have lanterns.
So, I googled when Japan's Iron Age started because I was curious. is generally considered to have started during the Yayoi period. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry if I have mispronounced that. Yayoi period, which was 900 BCE to 248 CE. That is when iron technology was first brought to. They think that iron technology was first brought to the Japanese archipelago.
Okay, I'm trying to see if there's any reference here on the wiki to the year it takes place. And I'm not seeing it. It's certainly in the past. Like, that's probably the most important thing, but I would like to get a more specific year.
It looks like guns were first introduced to Japan in the 13th century.
Interesting. So it might be much later than I realized. I mean, much like earlier.
I was going to say it
history.
felt quite earlier because I think we see the Iron Town. They're the ones working with the iron. The people they're warring against are still using like blades, explosives, and like poison darts. See, when I'm watching it, I felt like I agreed. It was like far earlier. Like it was like just on the cusp of modernized weapons.
Sure.
So Portuguese firearms were introduced in 1543, and an intense development followed.
So Wikipedia says that it's approximately between 1336 to 1573.
Yeah,
AD.
so around that.
So that's
period.
way earlier than I would have thought. But nonetheless, it's not now, which is probably the most important part. It is, I guess,
quite a ways back.
Pre-industrial revolution, I suppose. But it's definitely resembling the progress, the march of time and technology into the natural remaining parts of Japan.
This new generation.
So they find the Iron Town. In Iron Town,
fangled guns.
On the way to Iron Town, Ashitaka saves some of the townspeople from the warring. The opposition, the samurai, brings them in. That's what allows him to be welcome in. On the way, they go.
He rescues some of the soldiers.
Oh, do you know what? Actually, what I'm remembering, he rescues them not from the samurai. He rescues them from Princess Mononoke.
Yeah,
We see a sort of guerrilla tactic from.
So. I think his interaction with those samurai was just to set up their introduction later. Really.
Yeah, that's true. That's right. I'm getting it kind of out of order.
And so Princess Mononoke, who was raised by wolves, literally,
not just wolves, like a wolf supernatural wolf god sort of thing.
And they are beefing.
And when we say gods, they're definitely little g gods.
Yes, like spirits. They are beefing with Irontown, and so they attack a convoy. And some of the men are lost, and then Ashitaka. There's Ashitaka.
It is Ashitaka.
Ashitaka finds some of them downriver, literally, and he rescues them and takes them back. But he actually encounters the deer god first during this time. They pass through the secret or the magic hidden forest.
Yeah, and you don't really know it at the time, but it's a deer with like a human
It don't look right.
Human would be inaccurate. It's like an uncanny sort of like almost a mask. Yeah. And so that's how and going through the waters near the what we will later figure out is the forest god or the forest spirit heals their physical wounds, but does not heal the demon infection on his arm, which consistently flares up whenever he's in battle or is angry. So he ends up at Irontown, and Irontown is a complex place. This is the point I feel like in this kind of movie that's very clearly nature versus man.
Nature versus nurture? No, I'm kidding.
They're not straight up evil. If anything, they're depicted as this is what these people have to do to survive. What Lady Eboshi has done is she helps some of the most lowly people in this society. She recruits women out of brothels, and she
gives them employment outside of being taken advantage of.
And gives them community and power within this culture. They are like equal citizens, and she also brings in lepers and like gives them as comfortable living as you could have as a leper. And these people are very grateful. The people of this town are so grateful to her.
I would be too.
And so it really sets up this theme I love of this movie of how this is not just a nature good human bad story. It's the story of how the powers of this world are constantly warring with each other, and people get caught in the middle, and everyone's just kind of trying to survive underneath the power who are, because what will come is pretty much the reason why they're hunting for the forest spirit is that the emperor is looking for immortality and has sent people out to find this. And so the people think that by getting the head of the forest spirit, they can give it to the emperor. And the emperor is never seen. That's what I think is really fascinating is huge, big picture. We have the emperor, him seeking immortality is affecting everyone's lives. Everyone's lives is affected, especially the forest spirits is affected by, and because then obviously the narrative is that if nature dies, humans die. Like we need nature. It's symbiotic. And that's what, for better or for worse, what Ashitaka is the only person pursuing living together to find symbionts. And so he then, while he's in the village, he figures out that Lady Eboshi is the cause of the demon boar that has affected him and forced him to leave his town, and he kind of hates her for it, but chooses not to attack her out of his desire for peace. It's at this time that Princess MonoNoke, which is a name the Irontown people have given her, is not her real name. Her real name is San. And she, we saw her earlier attack the Irontown people on the side of the mountain as they were transporting materials. She attacks the village directly, and gets into a wicked fight with Lady Eboshi. Ashitaka breaks it up and walks out of there with Princess Mononoke, but pretty much in doing so makes himself an enemy of the town because he's pretty much, to them, sided with
if you're not
San.
with us, you're against us.
They go into the forest, and pretty much from there, it's pretty much just ongoing battle between everyone, to put it simply. Like, you have the encroaching samurai on Irontown. A couple of people who are working for the emperor come in. The main guy, his name is Jigo. I never caught the pronunciation of the name. Jigo.
I don't know if they say it.
It was very rare. He's a little guy, very stout, and he is the one who's like leading this hunt for the princess, the forest spirit's head. He convinces Kiyoshi to lead them into the forest, and he's kind of letting them do the dirty work. Meanwhile, a bunch of boars, another group of people is added. A bunch of boars from a different forest have heard that the boar god from this forest was killed. So they're led by
Okoto
is what I have written down. He's a white boar god, and he's leading a charge of boars to take revenge. Even though they know they can't beat them, they are going to still go to war with Irontown. And so that battle eventually happens. They're wiped out. Everyone except for Okoto is killed. The Irontown people, as well as the Emperor's men, they use the hides of the slain boars to trick Okoto into thinking that they have come back to life, and he leads them to the lake in the middle of the forest where the forest spirit lives. They do manage to decapitate him, and this turns the forest spirit into a giant. I have it described here. Let me see if I can find it.
A night walker is what.
They call it night walker, but
we'll get to this, but I have some information about the mythology.
Oh, I said he becomes
a
a wave of blobby death, is how I described it in my notes. Sorry, what were you going to say?
We can get to this after the plot summarization, but I have information about the mythology behind the deer god. Okay,
I would love to hear it. So, pretty much, upon having his head chopped off, he becomes the Night Walker and because he takes this form at night, it's a giant looming sort of human-y creature.
He kind of like cultivates the ground,
Mm-hmm.
like the forest. Just kind of walks around, moseys about, and grows plants. Average night activities.
Which is, there's this running theme of the animals of the forest are part animal, part spirit. During the day, they're pretty straightforward animals. Some of them can talk through almost like not with their mouth, but like telepathically. Thank you.
And I think they mentioned this later. They talk about how other animals can no longer speak.
Correct. Yeah.
Due to humans in the woods, which kind of alludes to the magic being destroyed.
Yeah.
Athena, have you ever talked?
Only at night. When you're not here. When the humans are gone, that's when she talks.
She talks all the time during the podcast. What are you talking about?
Yeah, really. But at night, the animals take on different forms. They become dark. Their eyes glow. They seem, at least the apes were more aggressive. There's almost like night brings on this like darker side and more spirit side to the animals. So the forest god during the day, he's a very harmless, intended to be beautiful deer, but he's more creepy than anything.
I think he's
very beautiful other than his face.
Very neutral.
Sure.
He's just like the god of life and death. Like he's in between.
But at night, he's the night walker, and the night walker is this very large, looming figure. But then once his head is cut off, he becomes the night walker, but becomes like a wave of just destruction on the forest, and it threatens to overtake Irontown. It starts surrounding everyone. It kills a bunch of people, and finally it forces Jigo to return the head to the forest spirit,
killing everything in the area.
Mm-hmm. Upon which, does the forest spirit just explode? Is that what I can't remember exactly?
He gets his head back, and he just kind of explodes into the wind.
Oh, he like falls over. I have that they return the head, but the Nightwalker gets hit. Oh, what it was is the forest spirit turns from the Nightwalker to the deer form when sunlight comes around. And Jigo through this whole like chase scene keeps referencing, I just need to make it to like daylight, because the daylight it's kind of alluded to when we eventually see the sunlight destroys the Nightwalker. So while he gets his head back so he doesn't kill everyone left, he gets hit by the sunlight, which causes him to fall over, and it's literally a giant explosion that like wipes out Irontown, wipes out a bunch of the trees. So like nothing is accomplished through this whole endeavor, and thankfully the forest does like kind of grow back. At least like it greens again
quite quickly, actually.
And it actually does redeem a lot of the forest that the people had burned down in their war with the boars. But there's kind of a disagreement between San and Ashitaka as to what's been accomplished here. San says that the forest is going to grow back, but it's not the deer god's forest anymore. So she's pretty much implying that the deer god is dead, which she straight up says it. But then Ashitaka says it can't be, because the forest spirit is life itself. There's life here, so the forest spirit and so there's kind of this implication of it's still there, but it's kind of the magic is lost. That's the big theme of like, we can talk about this as we do our big analysis, but there's a theme of like things are less than they used to be. And it ends with plants growing again next to the water in the forest. And we skipped over one of the classic like elements of a Hayao Miyazaki film, which is little guys. It's the soot gremlins. It's the little guys who follow around with Totoro. It's the little blobby spirit guys from Boy and the Heron. And this, they're called Kodamas. They're forest spirits, and they're cute, but they're also creepy. We'll talk about that in a minute. One of them, they were implied to have all died, I feel like is the implication. Earlier in the movie, one returns at the end. And is there, and his head rattles, which we'll talk about what that means in a second. If that sounds complicated, it's because it is. We had to there's so much we had to skip over.
I remember the first time watching this film, I think I paused after when he was healed, when Ashitaka's healed, paused and going, oh my gosh, there's still 45 minutes left.
And if it sounds like if you've never seen this movie and you're thinking, hold on, the movie's called Princess Mononoke. Where is Princess Mononoke through this? Good question. Kind of irrelevant. Very central to Ashitaka's story. I mean, her name is not even Princess Mononoke. Her name is San. She's there, but there's in the midst of everything we talked about.
English dubs and their consequences.
Ashitaka and San are going through, they're having their own character relationship. Ashitaka is pretty much immediately smitten with her. And she literally identifies as a wolf. She says, I'm not human, I'm a wolf.
Yeah.
This
is my girlfriend, but she doesn't go to our school. She goes to a different school.
And through
She's
the
homeschooled
process of this movie, Ashitaka is able to win over the wolves who immediately hate him. Able to win over San, who immediately hates him, and she's able to see that at least there was good in him, and maybe again, nothing is really accomplished in this movie. You don't really get a real sense of what San has other than the fact that they do kind of admit their love for each other at the end. So the movie does become about their relationship.
Ashitaka's love, San's tolerance.
So that just kind of explain what is going on with our two main characters throughout all of this. They're kind of just there getting to know each other, kind of. It's not as cut and dry as a lot of movies you might expect. So we said how the movie ends.
Lady Eboshi seems kind of redeemed. She seems maybe not redeemed, humbled.
Sure. I feel like she had a moment
right at the end.
Oh, she's surprised. There's something she's surprised about. Let me check my notes here. She gets attacked. She or someone else cuts off one of the wolves' heads. Oh, it's okay. So there's like 3 wolves. There are 2 that are just kind of normally wolves, and then there's the wolf god Moro, who can talk, who is just further. This movie is constantly trying to confuse you. Is referred to as San's mother, but is a male voice, if that's not confusing. And he either has his head cut off or he dies, but his head survives. And
this movie has some very jarring moments that make you go, ugh.
Oh, I've got a long list for this.
If you don't like leeches, you're not going to like this film.
I like the idea that our review of this is incredibly vague, and I actually like the idea that we just don't explain. Like, you didn't explain that. I don't think you should explain that. Just watch this movie. The only way it's going to make sense to you is if you watch it. It's still not going to make sense, but it's going to make more sense than us trying to describe it. I'm trying to find... what you brought about Kyoshi is interesting. So she shoots the deer god's head off. She's the one who actually eventually, quote-unquote, kills the god, at least resulting in the head coming off. And the Moro's head bites off Kyoshi's arm. Ash and Fawn fight Jigo. So I don't have it written down. She expresses surprise that they're saving her, I think is what it is. Like, why would you save me after what I did? So you finally get to see her maybe having a little bit of I think what you said, humbling is good. She's a complicated figure, and I'd like to talk to her.
Well, I think we see that a lot with Ashitaka's character, of how he, despite the mistakes others have made, is still seeing their worth and value as human beings.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I think that's good.
He's really just got a reverence for all life itself.
Yeah. And I think if you're trying to understand what this movie's going for, I think you really have to closely watch Ashitaka. I think that's a really good point. He, at any given point, he is trying his best to do what is right. He even, after killing some of the samurai at the beginning of the movie, he saves some townspeople. He even expresses regret for killing those men.
I think because all the other times we've seen him fight is purely defense.
Sure.
Even when he's fighting against Iboshi's guard and San and Iboshi trying to stop them from fighting itself, it's all defensive, except for these times when he kills. The first time we see him kill is to save someone else, an old woman. And then the other times that he kills is to save himself.
Yeah, I mean, you're totally right. He's, I mean, I guess this is now a point to bring up something that I think you can speak into is his resemblance to Link. I think is something people would find interesting. Like, did you get that? I mean, because you brought up the trailer, the original announcement trailer for
Breath of the Wild. Kind of, I feel like it's got some similar energy and movement to the very opening of Princess Mononoke. If you know, you know. And if you don't know, get to knowing. I think it would depend on which iteration of Link it would be. I don't know if that would necessarily be Breath of the Wild Link. Lore accurate Breath of the Wild Link is very scary. Perhaps maybe more Skyward Sword Link, the first Link incarnation. I would almost maybe wonder, and I'm not super knowledgeable about this franchise, but maybe he's got a little bit more Aragorn in him.
Interesting. And that's Lord of the Rings
Yes.
Aragorn. Why do you say that?
I've watched Lord of the Rings once in my life.
Yeah, that's. I'm surprised to hear you say that. Just because
But
I know
I
you're
feel
not
like
big on Lord of the Rings.
because everything that Ashitaka does is it's for peacekeeping reasons. It's very honorable. Every decision he has made has been from a place of like maturity. Someone who, I think he's like viewing all of his options before he makes a decision. He doesn't make rash decisions. If you've watched Lord of the Rings and I'm wrong, sorry. I've seen them once in college and I was very tired throughout all of them. So I feel like you kind of have or maybe kind of like a Ned Stark character. Someone who's very honorable, doing like what they can to not quite take sides, I would say, but to do everything in his capability for what he believes is right.
That's totally fair. And kind of similarly, I think a good my big note that I have written down on Ashitaka is that throughout the movie, people keep asking him, which side are you on? Or they accuse him of being the enemy when he doesn't ever do things like the only time he does something against someone is to defend someone else.
Yeah.
So that he's constantly putting himself in a position to appear as if he's an enemy, but he never does something offensive.
He never does something
someone.
antagonistic.
Yeah.
Really.
And even to the point of, I think one of the key scenes when he really stands up for what he believes in, but doesn't do it offensively, is in the town when he saves San.
And he's shot.
Yeah, he gets shot by one of the townspeople.
Those aren't like BB pellets.
It goes straight through him.
Those are like Magnum.
And I think what's interesting is the demon infection calls out the anger that he does have under the surface.
Because they say the infection is hate. It's hate and fear.
So he does have an anger. I think that's what makes his character so interesting is it's not like he's this purely good person naturally. He's making a choice to be as peaceful as possible. And he's kind of like the ultimate like screw around and find out character of like people. If you screw around with him, you will find out. Of like he can defend himself. Like he is kind of the ultimate warrior. And if you fight him, you're probably gonna lose. But he does as much as he can to not kill others. I just really like how in that scene where he's rescuing San from the village, they keep telling him to stop, and he kind of just walks out even after getting shot. Like, and then he just pushes open the giant gate. They're like, it'll take 10 men to open that. It's just a great symbol of like he's just gonna peacefully do what he wants. He knows he's right. And I love to kind of transition to one of my other favorite parts of the movies. I love his relationship with the Irontown people. The Irontown people are great.
The ladies love him.
Especially the women. The women are hilarious.
I think he's like 15, which is like...
Like, this is a movie that ultimately lives on things that are totally unnecessary. There's so much... Like, this movie, because it doesn't have a strict plot to it, it has a lot of story, but not... It's willing to just do stuff. And the Irontown is just a great sequence of just... It just exists just for its own right. Like, it exists narratively to make the people feel human. This is the part that so many of these kind of movies, the most similar movies are Fern Gully, James Cameron's Avatar, the animated movie Epic are kind of the ones that come to mind, of just like the nature defends themselves against the oncoming people. They don't spend the time to like truly humanize. They might humanize a few of the humans who end up turning at the end. What they do is they humanize the entire village.
You almost see this in Prince Caspian too.
That makes sense. Sure. I've only seen Prince Caspian once. But.
Well, the main antagonists are a new kingdom. I can't remember what they're called, but they're industrialized.
Oh,
They're
interesting.
industrializing.
Okay.
They haven't gotten to guns just yet, but they're industrializing in not the last battle, that's the 7th book. The battle that takes place is you have, because they want to industrialize and conquer, and you have the magic citizens of Narnia fighting back against that. And actually one of my favorite cinematic scenes, the trees come to life. To fight for their forest, which is very, Ent, Lord of the Rings, but C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien were besties, so I don't think they cared.
And just, I love the writing and the animation, the performances of the women, the group of women who are all the group of women who live in the Iron Town. They're all former brothel girls. They have a great sense of humor. They're constant peanut gallery. They're constantly making jokes. Even when the samurai come to invade the village, they're still cracking jokes. It's great.
They're the ones left to defend.
And to go back and kind of further illustrate Lady Eboshi's, what she's doing for the village, she is pushing the rifle designers to make it so that they're light enough for any woman to use. And so that just the townspeople, but also all the men are hilarious, and the like kind of jokey ongoing conflict between the men and the women, but also like you unexpectedly meet these lepers who kind of live isolated for obvious reasons, but they have a lot of personality and
she gives
and they
them
never
work
come
as
back.
well.
They what?
They come back as well. I think because I saw this, I don't know if it's actually confirmed, but as I was trying to figure out some information about the deer god, it is mentioned that not only when Ashitaka was healed at the end of the film, because his curse is lifted after the deer god explodes and brings life back to everything. It's said that I think allegedly he also healed the lepers.
Oh, okay. I don't remember that part.
I don't think it was shown.
Now, what I am reminded of, though, I think we're going to keep coming back to this, is how complicated, there's so many details that complicate every character, good and bad. Lady Eboshi, she at least claims that she wants the forest spirit's head to heal the lepers. Like that, I think she definitely has selfish goals. She's the leader of this town. She makes a lot of money. She lives in this very nice home with a huge
the emperor says
garden.
He's going to pay her for the head.
She is going after money, but she does, and you can definitely see that while the outcome of her actions are good, she is still using these people, even if it's for their own benefit. She still benefits from it. I mean, it's cheap labor. You got to assume that she's actually paying less. It's cheap labor. She benefits. Like later on, it turns out she was right to try to equip the women, because they leave with all the men and the women are left behind. That's when the samurai, she was so brilliant to leave the women able to defend themselves. They're able to fight off the samurai by themselves. So she benefits from everything. Everything she does is not purely altruistic. It makes her a complicated character. It's like she's doing this, but it's good, but it's selfish, but it still has a good outcome. And she's still the one who cuts off the head of the forest god, but she did want it to help the lepers. I would be really interested to find if the lepers are indeed cured at the end, because I do not remember that part. Yeah, there's not a lot of references to them in the Wikipedia page, so it does not specifically say that at the end. But so that's what I had to say about the village people, not the band that did YMCA, but the people who live in the village.
Oh my gosh.
What else? What other notes do I have? we moved on from Ash, but I forgot to just point out two things about Ash. One, great costume. He's got an iconic look. Two, he's constantly like he almost only ever speaks in like bold declarative statements. Like he doesn't like
a man.
He just like
why use many words when few do trick.
He's just constantly like he speaks like you expect an anime character to talk like he is kind of the cliche of like
main character energy.
He shouts a lot when it's really unnecessary. Like he's kind of like my wife is gonna. If she thinks my wife doesn't listen to this. I'm gonna make fun of homeschool kids. He talks like a homeschool kid. I'm just like very like.
That's the second homeschool joke we've made. I said San was homeschooled.
Oh yeah, They're the two opposite ends of homeschool kids.
Oh no!
But it's hard to describe. But once you watch it, you'll know what I'm talking about.
You have the very structured homeschool child and the not structured.
Yeah, the two. Yeah, really. This movie is talking about Ashitaka's sick costume. This movie's just sick. Like it's so freaking cool. I think the visuals are amazing. Like I don't want to. I'm not going to quite spoil it. There's a lot more loss of limb than you would anticipate. It's almost kind of it's almost as if everyone is Lego people with how easily their limbs pop off in this
someone
movie.
Edit some of those scenes with the Lego breaking noise.
I'll just leave it at that. Ashitaka is an absolute surgeon with a knife. It is not a knife, sorry, a bow and arrow. It's so cool. He catches an arrow at one point. That shot is amazing, and he like sends it back, return to sender.
Uno reverse.
And like the wolves are so cool, and they're vicious, and they
You furry.
What? Great. They attack so ferociously. The boars are so ferocious. The boars resemble one of my favorite things. Like I never really thought about it a lot, but because of Boy and the Heron, I realized how amazing it is when animation just draws a bunch of a thing, which Miyazaki loves to do, and it's most present here in this movie with the boars. There's just so many boars. It's insane. And that kind of transitions into just the animation and the visuals. The sweeping shots of the countryside with the wind blowing through the grass and the trees.
What did you say? Lord of the Rings, eat your heart out?
Yes. Peter Jackson wishes he could have establishing shots this good. There's a lot of scenes of like wood splintering and exploding for no good reason, which you have to constantly remember when you're watching a movie like this. It is hand drawn. Everything had to be drawn. It's not. I respect CGI artists so much, but it gets to a point where you can just simulate things. You can allow things can just happen naturally, which look great when it's done well.
What do you mean the computer doesn't just do it for you?
But in this instance, wood splintering means someone had to freaking go in and not see their kid for 8 months so they could draw every splinter of wood. And it looks incredible. And it makes it feel so... And this movie has such an incredible energy to it. The forest spirit, when it walks, plants like suddenly spring up from the ground and like wrap around it and then die as he steps away. That looks amazing. It's just like... It's a detail. It's so unnecessary, but it's a great little detail that's, one, beautiful, and also really just helps sell this character as the magic of the character. And there's also an element right before Kyoshi shoots the forest god. It looks at her and plants start growing out of the gun. And it's just the way they animate plants growing out of nothing. Just that blows my mind. The way the Nightwalker just looms over the forest at night with all of the what are they called? All of the
Little baby guys.
Yeah, I had it written down. Kodama spirits. The Nightwalker is causing a bunch of wind, and the Kodama spirits are all in the trees, just riding the waves, having fun. Just beautifully animated. It's animation for animation's sake, and it's so great. And obviously, and while I love this movie, it does for me peak with the first scene as far as animation. Other than
The opening shots sets the tone, and it's amazing.
the demon boar has wiggly little black fingery worm things coming out of it all over its body, and it's just a mind-blowing piece of animation. I just look at that and I can barely comprehend what I'm looking at. It's so cool. And I don't think it fortunately the movie's so good that the movie doesn't feel like it peaks there. It does have a bunch of other peaks throughout it, but it does just grab you instantly. Like, what is this? This is so much darker, more visually like engaging as far as like energy. Like all Ghibli films are visually engaging, but this is engaging in a different way. It's like grabbing you. Ghibli films are more inviting. Just like, come, enjoy the food, enjoy this quaint little village, enjoy watching these people cook. This is like coming out at you and grabbing you, like, the forest is dying! We killed it with guns! Anyways, this transition to talking about the forest spirits, starting with the Kodama spirits. Do you remember what you said about them?
No.
So they are little guys, little white guys. They have like baby-ish bodies with like masks for heads that rattle for some reason, and they have they have unmoving faces that are just kind of black.
Oh, I do remember one thing I said. They're kind of a little Korok-y.
What is that?
From Legend of Zelda. Breath of the Wild. A little Korok. They're kind of little like Korok guys, but more menacing.
So they're very simple. But they have like a jovialness to them. They're pretty funny to look at. And then one of them turns around and runs away from the camera, and you just went, ugh, the butt.
They just have oddly accentuated butts.
For some reason, they have butt cheeks. I don't know why. It's the only like detail they even have.
Why do they need butt cheeks?
I don't know.
Why do they need butt cheeks?
They walk the line between creepy and cute, and I love it. I think it's great.
Same.
We also, other forest spirits is the apes, who don't.
I think they're just. Oh, I guess they're kind of spirits. I would just say they're also like animals.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the fun line that this movie is walking, is that the anything in the forest has some sort of spiritual element to it. But the apes have the biggest difference between night and day. At night, you can't even really tell that they're apes.
At night,
they're just kind of shadows with red eyes, and they have very deep voices, and they lightly throw sticks at you. It's very. It kills me.
It's not a threat. It's more just an inconvenience.
Like, they won't directly attack anyone. They demand that the wolves give them Ashitaka so they can eat him. But they never do anything. They just kind of loom around, and then during the day they're just normal apes.
And wasn't there a consequence for eating him? I think the wolves say that
that's a good
something
question.
Will happen to them.
That's a really good question.
It's either that or nothing will get solved.
They want to eat him to possess his strength.
Yeah. And
I think that San probably says something like, you also will get his evil, or something along those lines.
I don't know.
Oh, we haven't even talked about Yakul this whole time. Probably the movie's best character, which is Yakul is Ashitaka's elk that he rides.
Oh, his red elk.
Yakul rules. He doesn't talk at all. You could remove him from the movie and the movie would be the same. But like the robot in Star Wars, I'm such a sucker for the animal sidekick. He doesn't talk at all. He doesn't have a ton of personality. He's just kind of there. But he does have a strong sense of...
he's not comic relief either.
No.
Which happens a lot with animal sidekicks.
He's the trusty steed. And if he gets hurt, you care. Like, because he kind of almost represents... He is Ashitaka's connection to the natural world. Because... everything else kind of is trying to kill him. But Yakul is always by his side. That's kind of the great moment I feel with Yakul is that because he got shot in the chest, he passes out at some point after saving San. And San kind of has to turn around and save Ashitaka. And she takes the...
she takes his bridle off.
Yeah.
And she's like, you're free.
You're free. And Yakul chooses to stay. He's loyal to Ashitaka, and he can just move. Yakul can pretty much run on water, if I'm remembering correctly. He's a great design. I feel like there's a scene where he runs on water.
No, he sinks in and he swims.
Okay. He probably sprinted across like the the shallow water
bit,
initially.
yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you love Yakul.
He's Yakul.
We pretty much talked about most of the stuff in the forest. I think the final theme I wanted to talk about. Did you have any major points you wanted to hit?
I mean, I had info about the mythology of the deer god.
Let's do it. This is the time to do it.
So it's not a whole lot of info because this is also like made up by Miyazaki, but in Japanese mythology, he is called Yatsu Kamizuo Mitsuno,
Okay.
who's worshipped in Nagahama Shiga. This god's origin comes from the Buddhist scripture, the Kasuga deer mandala. I don't know, where it is seen as a deer with a tree on its head, and he is the power that forms a planet. The Night Walker is commonly called Daidarabachi in Japanese, and in the film, the spirit of the Force, the Night Walker is the personification of, he's the personification of the Force. He's neither good nor evil. He's life and death. Now, Daidarabochi, so in mythology, the size of a Daidarabochi is basically, it's a very large Titan being. Was so great that his footprints were said to have created innumerable lakes and ponds. In one legend, Daidarabochi weighed Mount Fuji and Mount Tsukuba to see which was heavier, but he actually split Tsukuba's peak after he was finished with it. So this reference is kind of like they're considered like benevolent giants. They move mountains. I think when they sleep, they're said to pose as a mountain range when sleeping. A gigantic class of yokai, which are supernatural entities and spirits. So, not to relate it to a different mythology, but if you've seen Moana, I think similar to how Tafiti is an island,
Sure.
but also sentient.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So you kind of have this merging of these two different mythos into one character for the movie.
Yeah, and that's also prevalent in James Cameron's Avatar, is that the forest itself is like a spirit that they can connect to. My final point I wanted to talk about with this movie is I love how it complicates things, but I also am really fascinated with the running theme of things like lessening over time. Early in the film, one of Ashitaka's people mentioned that their people are becoming like stupider or like weaker over time. The boars say the same thing, that their people are becoming weaker. They talk about the animal spirits having less magic in them.
That's where they talk about how that some of the ones don't talk anymore.
The movie ends,
Which is very Narnia.
Yep, absolutely.
Lots of animals losing the ability to talk.
Yeah. The movie ends with the forest spirit kind of being killed. Like it's there, but it's not. There, I don't know if this is directly intended, but it kind of feels like there's not much of a future for Irontown because the men and the women aren't really together. Like there doesn't seem to be a lot of like marriages. Like you don't see any like children. So there might not be a future for that village.
I noticed that too. It's like there are no children. There are marriages, no children.
Yeah.
Maybe she's got some weird rules.
It's a very sad point to make a movie about, but it's interesting of like, and it's directly being caused by modernity, by the progress of time, or not time, but the progress of technology, of civilization. And I guess that kind of pulls into something that we talked about a few weeks back of just wanting to kind of pull more spiritual elements into it. Do you think that's true? Do you agree with that in reality? Do you think that we are losing something in time? Like, are we less? Are we more? Are we equal to the people of the past, of the earth of the past?
We're going to get spiritual.
Yeah.
I think ever since the fall, humans have been the same. Humans have never been able to reach the same level of perfection that we had in the garden before sin, the relation that we have with other creations since then. I believe if the fall never happened, just destruction on mass scales for profit and the extinction of animals for hunting. I say, as a hunter, as a respectful hunter, I hunt for food legally with tags, within reason. I do think older. I think part of this comes from maybe survivor's bias as humankind and also technology. But I think there is less of a reverence for the earth and nature for convenience reasons.
Sure.
You've seen the meme. There's like a picture of a beautiful open field filled with natural grasses. You know, it'd look really good here, a Dollar General. You know, I think industrialization has prioritized. I'm going to get on my soapbox and not try to be for too long. Prioritize safety. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't, has prioritized progress over safety. And I'm not saying that, we shouldn't farm, we shouldn't use animals. Sure. They are here for us. I fully believe that those things are here for us to utilize.
Yes.
We have to eat. You got to eat. I'm not saying go vegan. You got to eat. But I think there is a loss of connection with the respect of other creation. Overall, you know, forests taken out in just swaths, grand swaths. No, building materials are fine, but there's an aspect of, okay, so we're going to use this, but are we going to, I guess, pay our respects to take care of it? We see this, I think, in old quarries and in old forests that are just never replanted. They're barren. So I think yes and no in that humans have been the same. Always, I don't believe in evolution. I believe in like microevolution, adaptation, and changes. Yep. I don't believe that like species evolution, and we won't get into that too much. And if you have an issue with it, leave us a review. I'd love to have a one-sided debate next episode where I tell you why I'm right. But so yes, in that I know in that humanity has been the same, but yes, and I think in our current world, in convenience, we have been desensitized to the importance of the world around us.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with just about everything you said. And my response to watching this movie is I agree with it and I don't agree with it. Is I appreciate that it's trying to draw us to, we are killing this thing. Mm-hmm. This thing is, there's a fundamental like magic here, quote unquote, magic being just like a beauty to it. Mm-hmm. God, and from a Christian perspective, God created the earth. Mm-hmm. Creation has an inherent goodness to it. And from a Christian perspective, what's not present in this movie is as humans, we have been tasked with taking care of the earth. Mm-hmm. It is our God-given responsibility to care for it. You're absolutely right. The earth is meant to serve us, but we are called to, like God,
take care of it.
We are designed to serve God, and God in turn takes care of us. Anytime we are anything is designed to serve us as humans, we are then in turn tasked to take care of it. We were meant to be good stewards.
Taking care of it, not taking advantage of it.
Exactly. And I do think this movie shows like Yakul that's Yakul's place in the natural order is to be a servant to Ashitaka, and in turn Ashitaka loves and cares for Yakul. It's a symbiotic relationship. Taking care of and using does not mean that you have to take advantage of it, that you don't have to abuse it, that you don't have to drive it into the ground.
And even on the smallest level, I keep motioning to Athena. She's in the tube. You can see her thigh sticking out. Even at the maybe not low, I don't want to say lowest point, but like having a pet. Pet pays you an unconditional love sometimes. Love and appreciation, and you still take care of them. Mm-hmm. You mutually benefit from the situation.
Absolutely.
Athena.
What I would also say in relationship to the question of is humanity irreversibly declining, I would totally say no.
No.
Especially the irreversible part.
Because we don't believe in redemption.
Because
what are we?
The hopelessness of both this movie and an atheistic perspective on the real world is humanity is marching towards nothing. From a atheistic perspective, the march of progress just has to inevitably end in destruction eventually. And similarly, a Christian perspective does also say things lead into destruction.
We won't
but
get too
not
much
for
into
everyone.
Revelation tonight.
That from a Christian perspective, there is an end in sight. That no matter how bad humanity has gotten, eventually there will be a redemption. That there is an end point at some
Yes.
point. We don't know when, but eventually we will come to an end point where there is a redemption for the good. That if you, as an individual, have declared that Jesus is your Lord and Savior, you and everyone who has done the same is saved in
Now,
the end.
I will say one thing that I found interesting about the movie is that even at the end with the death of the forest and quote unquote death of the dear God, life still came out of that. It's maybe not the
Yeah.
same. And we can talk about transformative
Life,
redemption all the time.
finds a way.
I think I made that joke.
I didn't catch
I
it.
think I made that joke when we watched it. There is that aspect as well, that even out of death, there can be renewed life. And in the Christian faith, you believe that you die to yourself and have a
Yeah.
renewed, transformed life. So there is that aspect as well. But even obviously in the Christian faith as well, when you die, that's not the end for you. You're going to have a better life.
Good point.
But a million times better, more than you can even fathom or believe. So you kind of, I think it's almost towing the line. There's a weird, and as you're kind of getting to, not to cut you off, there's a weird
good.
line between the hopelessness. I wouldn't say it's hope, but I really wouldn't say it's like a hopeful ending by any means, because San is like, the forest is dead because the dear God is dead. And then even Ashitaka's term is like, well, you can't because life is around. It still ends on kind of a kind of note where it's like, and maybe this could be an English translation thing. The forest is growing back, but they kind of leave it on the idea of it's forever changed.
Sure.
And it just kind of ends there, whether that's good or bad. And I think depending on your outlook, I mean, honestly, I think me watching it, I'm thinking of how when there are wildfires, horrifically devastating. Fire is very, fire bad.
Sure.
Fire is bad. Fire is also very cleansing. And these forests, when fire happens, the undergrowth is cleared out and new life can begin. So I think kind of depending maybe on honestly just your outlook on life, maybe might depend on how you view the new growth of a forest. Maybe you're like, this was, and honestly, there's a part of me that was like, well, it was really sad to see probably 1,000 years old trees get nuked essentially. But kind of looking at, I wonder if it's a way of that, whether you stick in the past or look to the future depends on it, in the way of this will never be like the way it was, or looking at it and like, and that's a good thing. Change is okay. Change is okay. New life is great. There are benefits to it.
Yeah, that's I like that point. That's totally true. That, I guess the ultimate word that, I mean, in my opinion, is absent from any other worldview, any other quote unquote reality outside of God's reality is hope. I think this movie tries to have some hope, but where's that hope? Like, ultimately, where's the hope come from? Like, everything that's happened is kind of inevitable. Where is their hope? There's only hope with Jesus, because you in that reality, you share in his, and so yeah, there's even in destruction. I mean, that's the story of Jesus. Even in his destruction, there is ultimate victory and hope in life and joy and love. To finish what I was saying about the idea this movie posits forward is, are humans irreversibly damaged? Are they on a irreversible decline from where they were? I say no. For Christians, from our Christian perspective,
I think if we were, there would have been no redemption.
Sure, yeah, exactly.
redeeming.
Is sin entered the world? Our sin entered the world. We are saved. There's a huge, very complicated theology with what humanity in their relationship to salvation pre-Jesus. Regardless, Jesus came because things were imperfect. Humans' relationship to God was not perfect. You needed Jesus. So that's to say, regardless of what you think about people's relationship to salvation pre-Jesus, Jesus is the ultimate. So humanity is redeemed through Jesus. That means we still have access to that today. So that means, no, we are not irreversibly
there's nothing different between us and any human in the past, at least up back to Jesus, is we have that choice to be saved. My point is, even if all of humanity is crumbling, we still have that
hope,
individual ability in knowing that there is salvation and victory through that. And we have the choice as individuals to lead our lives that way. That even if society is crumbling, even if we are destroying the earth, we can still love people because this earth is going to fade away. That's the to transition into my final point I want to say is this movie, while it paints nature very beautifully and in a very good light, and I like how nature is complicated because you have destructive forces like the boars, like the apes. There is evil even in nature. I like the idea that evil is natural, because some people would argue evil only is in man, that only man creates evil. But I like the idea that evil exists as a natural force. That's a great point, I think, a very great spiritual point. In this movie's worldview, nature is kind of a thing unto itself, even if in the movie's highly metaphorical. I don't know what Hayao Miyazaki believes, but I don't think he thinks there's a literal nature spirit. Maybe he does. I don't know. But I would say you could very easily read this movie as metaphor for nature itself. Translated to the real world, people who really love nature, I think, unfortunately, see it as good in and of itself. Nothing is good without God. That we see good in nature because it reflects God. Which is to say that even if nature is destroyed, God is still there. Mm-hmm. So there's not, in this worldview, if the force is destroyed, hope is lost. My opinion, hope is never lost because God is always there and is always waiting for us to redeem. But I do think the movie presents to us that we are responsible. And I do like anything that makes humans feel responsible.
Only you can prevent forest fires.
The movie also recognizes that people have needs. And I think that's really important, that human needs should be considered. That there has to be some damage or cost. We sacrifice nature for humanity, which is how God designed it to be. We shouldn't destroy it, but there is a sacrifice going on the part of nature for us because it's there to serve us. Mm-hmm. Good points, though. I think that was a great conversation. I think that really, I think this is what Miyazaki would want us to be doing, is to taking the movie and really applying it to our lives and seeing that there's underlying spirituality to everything, that things, we are not separated. Nature being destroyed is not, we're destroying ourselves. Mm-hmm. And I think the movie really brings out some of those points. So as always, we close out with the moments, and this movie is just chock full of them. And feel free to interject at any time. I've got a chronological list here. Very minor, but there's a scene where San jumps off a roof and he lands silently.
You mean Ashitaka?
I have San.
Oh, you said he.
Oh, did I? She. Princess MonoNoke, as it were. Just lands silently, and it's just like,
yeah,
that doesn't feel right. I briefly mentioned earlier the San versus Kiyoshi fight.
Is she Eboshi or Kiyoshi?
Oh, it is Eboshi.
I was gonna say, I was like, huh? You're talking.
Is Kiyoshi a different character?
Kiyoshi, Avatar Kiyoshi?
I don't. Oh, that's what I kept getting her mixed up with the Kyoshi Warriors.
You said it the first time. I was like, maybe.
Yeah, it's Eboshi. Pretty much they're fighting.
Megan's screaming right now.
Yeah, yeah, really. We forgot to talk about Avatar again. Next time we will talk about Avatar, and we will talk about that comic that got. Wait, did we actually? We actually did finally talk. Did we talk about the Godzilla prequel comic, or did we not? I can't remember. I don't think we did because I read it, but I don't remember. I don't think we did. I don't think we ever did. Anyway, so next episode, Avatar: Last Airbender and the Godzilla King of Monsters prequel
Next
comic.
Episode is actually our next Studio Ghibli film.
But we'll also talk about.
Okay, I'll believe it when I see it.
We'll also talk about Avatar: Last Airbender, and we will also talk about.
Sometime in the next 12 months, we're going to make an S to F tier about our favorite about our Star Wars shows.
It's all going to everything we've been promising next episode.
Maybe if we have an extra week before Transformers 1 and we have it the random.
We're going to do it next week. I promise.
The fridge clean out week.
So San and Koshi have this fight, and Ashitaka just pushes his way in and can't get them to stop fighting, so he just gut punches and knocks out both of them. And it's just like, one, how'd that work? Two, anytime a man punches a woman, always has a moment for me, even if it's justified, which it kind of was because they were both being jackwagons. So San, as he rides away from the village with Ashitaka rides away with San on the wolf. Ashitaka passes out because he has a bullet wound. And immediately one of the wolves starts like biting on his entire upper head, which I found very funny. And after that, there's just a very abrupt cut. It's the first time we see the ape dark shadowy spirits, and they're staring directly into the camera with their red eyes, and it is terrifying. It is very truly people in their sleep when they see the visions. Sleep paralysis demons.
See, every time you say Hat Man, I think you're talking about the sleep paralysis.
I know.
I mean, if you're seeing the Hat Man, I don't know what to tell you.
We talked about it, but you can't ignore it in this part. The four spirits' face is so, but also it has chicken feet.
Very goat-like, too. The very goat face.
And it also walks silently on water, which anytime anything is silent in a movie, it just is so off-putting. The wolf that can talk encourages Ashitaka to jump to his death to stop the pain, which is like... Ashitaka argues with the wolf to let San free because she is human, and the wolf says she is neither human or wolf, which is just, that's rough, buddy. You raised her.
Yeah.
What is she then?
The wolf also calls her my ugly daughter.
Oh, yes.
It's like, oh.
The movie couldn't, it kind of goes a little while after that without a moment. But it,
because everything else is like,
do you know
crap.
what? I skipped one. The women of the village, their breasts are constantly about to fall out. You never see a nipple, but you get close, real close, multiple times.
They're also very infatuated with Ashitaka.
They are.
And he's very much
the hots.
a teen. And, probably, unfortunately speaking, some of them are also very young, which is horrific. And I'm not going to talk about the abuse of women throughout history for...
That's for another episode.
It's for another episode.
We'll save that for the when we talk about the Godzilla prequel comic. People,
but yeah, kind of like when he showed up, like they're like all over him, and they're like, and it's like, oh, okay.
And also, the first time you see someone get decapitated in this movie or lose a limb, you're gonna go, huh?
Imagine going from Totoro
or from Up on Poppy Hill
to this. It'll be like. My kids loved Totoro. We're gonna go watch Princess MonoNoke, and it's like,
oh, Studio Ghibli. They make fun, kind of quirky animated.
Going
movies.
from Spider-Man: Homecoming to Deadpool.
Yeah, really.
Energy, like
good pull. The final moment, though, you also probably have a moment when the wolf's head just abruptly comes back to life.
That makes me so uncomfortable. I don't like the way that looks. It makes me viscerally uncomfortable.
The real, most moment of the whole movie, it just kind of comes out of nowhere, is when the men, out of nowhere, you don't see them do this. It just happens. They are in the boar skins, and they kind of are just floating. Like, you can't see. It's just, imagine just a boar skin. No eyes, no nothing. They're kind of floppy.
And they're kind of saggy.
They're very saggy, and they're just kind of bobbing away in the forest. They come out of nowhere. There's so many of them, too. And then it really caps it off. They, to stop Ashitaka, they poke out little blow darts from the eye hole of the boar. It's so unsettling.
It's also unsettling when Akoto dies, and San gets pulled in.
Oh, absolutely.
It's very
into
much
the
like,
wiggly
it's like,
demon finger worms.
Gag. It's just very...
Oh, man. Oh, because both San and Ashitaka try, cutting away the, infection, and it's just, blood. Yeah, this movie is very visceral, but that's why I love it. There's just nothing quite like this movie. I will say, I don't want it to sound like I think the movie's totally perfect. It does sag a little bit in the middle.
I would say that's kind of my biggest gripe with the movie is that it has some pacing issues. So when you watch the movie, it struggles to keep up this energy through the whole thing, but it starts and ends so strong. And I think the general narrative, the thematic richness of the movie, the characters, the animation, I think more than make up for that, and will keep you guessing till the end. I mean, seriously, I don't think you can ever, at any given moment, if I paused the movie and told you guess what happened next, you're not gonna guess it. There's no way you could guess any of this stuff. It's crazy, but it doesn't have anatomically correct cat busts in it, which is a bummer that we haven't talked about that yet. But maybe one day we'll do Totoro.
Kodomo butts.
We do have consolation prize Kodomo butts. Watch the movie. It's great. I love it. That moves us on to our final segment, which is always here, always good, always It's minute,
mean it.
but it's within a It's parsec, astrosecond. Rachel, start us off. What? Do you have any videos, first off?
No.
No videos? Okay, let me play my videos real quick.
Okay.
Well, actually, you go and show a meme, then I'll play a video.
Okay. Normal family heirlooms. What my family heirloom will be.
Just a Black Series figure of Darth Maul. Okay.
On his speeder.
Videos. Hold on, sorry.
Huh?
We need a brand new monster movie ASAP. What do we got?
We're gonna make Godzilla so thick. How thick? Thickest lizard ever slithered out the water like, ooh. Why you gotta be so thick? Cause the people need a thick, slick lizard in these times. Hard times, no, they're not easy times. But a thick Godzilla about to make things right. Crush us all like a city in between their thighs. Damn, I think he's right.
So obviously referencing thick boy legendary
That's
Godzilla.
a big moment. Certified moment.
That is from
We need a brand new monster
what's his name? Carter Vale Music on Instagram. He's very funny. Recommend. What else you got?
I was initially planning on being a casual fan, but then I thought, why not just let it consume my soul instead? It's a picture of someone in despair
Just
on their
all of
knees with
Star
their hands
Wars.
and all of Star Wars next to him.
That's really good. There's not much of an in between for the most part, for most people at least. So you have the woman talking with the electronic box because she smoked, and then you have the droid faction from Battlefront.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Men.
We have lost the techno union ships. What do you got? What do you got?
Men. I wonder why
Yeah,
women.
I wonder if I can do it. We have lost the techno union chips. I can't quite. Obviously, it's
Yeah,
you
a little
can't
bit of
replicate.
crosshair in there. Men. I wonder why women live longer than men. Also men. This is a collection of Star
Oh,
Wars.
it's just all the stupid stuff Anakin did at the
Stay-
climax of each prequel movie.
Phantom Menace. Stay in that cockpit. Leaves. Obi-Wan. We'll take him together. Rushes Dooku alone. Don't try it. Tries it.
Anakin, ultimate bad at following directions kid. This is my final video, mostly visual. I'm just gonna leave that one unexplained. I'll just let Rachel's reaction remain a mystery.
Oh my gosh.
I'll just say this: Energon can't melt steel beams.
No. They just got punched in the face.
I'm glad that one landed. What else you got? Oh, it didn't land. I mean,
Anyways, we're gonna move on from this really quickly now before we get into some territory we should not be in.
maybe we need to bring on our good friend Alex Jones to see what he thinks of that
maybe
video.
Let's get out of this restricted airspace. Anyways, Paris 2024.
Very nice.
Do you know what this is referencing?
Absolutely.
This is Oh, okay.
Well, you can explain it.
Yeah,
I know,
so
I get it, but you can explain
this
it.
is the very famous sharpshooter from Turkey who won silver. The most casual man on the planet who looks like he got up and rolled out of bed. And it's this very infamous pose, one hand in his pocket, the other on the gun. Not even bothered. And instead of the gun, it's Megatron.
It's Megatron as a gun. It's really good. I like it. Funny enough, my first meme also features this man. Corporate needs you to find the difference between the pictures, between this picture and this picture. They're the same picture. It's that man and both gray, both sharpshooters. They even have very similar skin tones.
They do.
Serious look. It's so good.
Godzilla will see this and just think, hell yeah. It's a picture of the Coliseum.
Very good. This is an image from The Simpsons of Lisa's holding up a newspaper, and on it, it's the front page of the newspaper, and it's got Homer looking like an idiot, and it says, "Local man thinks retconning the sequels is real." he looks really excited. He got his arms up.
Oh, that's good. That's good. All right, Wojak style meme. So I gotta explain a little bit. So you got the dark-haired girl. I'm kind of lonely, and a group of other girls. We're here for you, man. I feel completely alone. We're here for you. And it's the Transformer.
G1 Transformers. Very good. Me leaving a store without buying anything and trying to not act guilty, even though I did nothing wrong.
He looks guilty.
It's a little Anakin just kind of derping.
Durbin. Padme, why won't you let me sleep in your room? From Anakin. Because it's the master bedroom.
I'm so torn on those jokes about Anakin not being a master. Like, I appreciate a lot of the prequel memes kind of go up and down as to whether they're funny because they just have been going for so long. They go, have been too much and they're not funny anymore, and then they keep going and they're really unfunny, and then they kind of become funny again because of how overused they are. I like that. I think we're coming up again. That's starting to be funny again.
Perfect example of some Jawa-esque.
Oh, the glowing eyes.
See her?
Yeah, I can see her eyes. Very Jawa.
Look at her.
Ukitti.
So bad. That's good.
When you served with General Skywalker for an entire war, but he turns to the dark side and murders kids because he had a bad dream about a girl that he was simping, and it's Rex, but his armor has been photoshopped onto that guy who's just staring at the
guy
camera.
at the soccer game with his hands on his head.
He looks like Rex. He's bald and has the skin tone. He looks like a clone. Bald.
Church is affected by the Microsoft outage. Be like, a communications disruption could only mean one thing: Satan. It's from the Phantom
good.
Menace in Naboo.
Man, we've got a lot of Phantom Menace memes today.
I know.
Are you an angel?
Oh, I don't like that.
Anakin meeting Padme, but instead of Padme, it's a biblically accurate angel.
How I pull up to the function.
It's just legendary Godzilla pulling
2014 when he shows up in Chinatown. The reveal. This is my last one.
I've got 3 more.
Oh shoot!
So I'll do 2, and then you do your last one. I'll do
okay.
your last one.
Okay.
General Grievous disarms Obi-Wan and corners him. Obi-Wan, parry this, you filthy casual. It's a knight with a handgun.
Nice. A Jedi Knight.
Yeah.
Right.
What do you got?
I thought you were gonna show 2.
Oh, right. My bad. I immediately forgot. It's San, aka Princess Mononoke, and Ashitaka together, and San is pointing. It's the woman pointing at the cat meme, but the cat is a still of one of the wolves, doing a very similar face to what the cat is doing in that meme.
You ready? Forget Ahsoka's biceps, embrace Tarkin's thunder thighs. That's it.
Great. That's the whole meme.
That's the meme.
I don't know exactly who this is. It's some sort of anime Sasquatch monkey man, and he looks sad, and it's just Princess Mononoke. and he looks happy. Princess Monkey.
That is from Attack on Titan. That is I only know it because I have friends who watch it.
Princess Monkey. They cut out the O-N-O-K, the middle O-N-O to make it monkey. Monkey.
AKA, or POV, you sit next to me during any King Kong film. And every 10 minutes I gotta go, monkey.
You know, it is interesting how that both elements of that meme are in our podcast. The origin of that meme, Kung Fu Panda,
Kung Fu Panda,
but also the most common use of the meme, Godzilla.
Kung Fu Godzilla.
King Kong, gosh dang it. Okay, I'm sharing my memes with Rachel.
I've already shared mine.
I know. You were on it. You were on top of it. Okay, let's see. So this is the part of the meme minute game where we guess which meme the other one which the other one heirlooms. I initially planned on being a casual fan. Men, I wonder why women live. Any of these could have been you. These are all really good. Godzilla will see this and just think, hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Kind of lonely. I'm here for you. Padme, won't you let me in your room, Padme?
Princess Monkey.
How I roll up to the function. Forget Ahsoka's biceps. Embrace Tarkin's thunder thighs. I think... Oh, this is hard. I think just about every one of these I would believe you made. I feel like... Ahsoka's biceps?
Incorrect.
Dang it. Is it the heirloom one?
Yeah.
I was so close to guessing that one. It's so you.
I used to picture them all because I don't own that one.
It's so you to make a joke about the Dark Series figures.
If anyone,
Dang it.
Black Series. If anyone has been curious, my Rebels, Hera, and Black Series Season 1 Hunter arrived in the last month, so I currently only have 6 more pre-orders waiting. It's fine.
Breathe heavily.
November might hurt. Look, in my defense, I have no defense. I like shiny little items. Hasbro wears my Callus figure anyways. The people in the Black Series figure Facebook probably think I'm insane. I think like half of my comments have been like a Callus figure every single time.
You won the last meme game, right? Like you guessed correctly last time?
No, I don't think I guessed correctly.
Oh,
I did not because you made the Basil meme. And I was so upset.
right. I didn't put it in. Okay. Well, I appreciate your honesty.
Dang it.
You're still ahead of me.
I know I'm not. I don't know if I will.
Okay, so I am back to even at 18 and 18.
Did you do? I feel like. Did you do the retconning the sequels meme?
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
I did not do the retcon sequels.
Dang.
You want to just take another guess
Did
just
you
for
do
fun?
Leaving the store?
I did do leaving
Dang it!
the
That
store.
was my second guess.
We were both just so
that
close.
was my second guess. I was like,
It was originally a that meme just kind of came together randomly. I had a meme in my meme templates folder. It was that same kind of joke,
kind of meme in your back pocket.
but it was Kermit looking kind of funny. I actually took that photo, that image of Anakin. I took with my phone last night. I was watching Phantom Menace with Alice, and Alice and I are currently rewatching all the Star Wars movies because she finished Clone Wars, and she wants to go back and watch the movie. She watched the movie for the first time about a year and a half ago, and with me, and we kind of just sped run them. And she didn't, it's hard to appreciate the bigger picture of any given Star Wars movie. Athena just threw her toy.
You did that thing across the room.
So anyways, I sat down today having no meme ready, and then I had that picture, and I thought it was perfect for that joke. There's something very weird. If anyone can figure it out, I really appreciate it. It's in the scene where they're on Coruscant, and Anakin goes to say bye to Padme, and he's actually talking, Corday. No, it is Padme. Corday is the name of the body double. She still goes by... Because up to that point, they call her Queen Amidala. No one knows that Padme is the queen. Yeah. He goes to say bye to Padme. The queen talks to him, and there's a shot of Anakin that I swear his face is CGI'd. It's that picture that I used. he does not look like the next show. There's something weird. I don't know if he's just like
Something wrong with the way he looks.
there's something off about. I'll show you the original photo that I took. There's something wrong with his face.
He looks too smooth.
Exactly, which to me yells CGI. But why?
Do you think it was added in later?
But the scenes from the original movie, the next shot of him looks totally weird,
Could
real.
it potentially be the lighting or maybe a filter they used?
I see. That's a good question. I don't know. It's
George
so
Lucas,
weird.
do you remember what you did in a film from over 20 years ago?
Yeah, I don't. It could be. I don't know. I would. I would really like someone to answer this question. I could not find an answer online.
If Reddit doesn't know, it doesn't.
But it made for a good meme. Very visual meme, of course. Obligatory visual meme. This has been a long episode. Thank you so much for sticking with us. It was a ton of fun to talk about this great movie. As always, thank you to Caleb Jacoby for our intro and outro music. Props to Rachel for our artwork and Twitter account at Rebels and Robots Pod.
Props to Cameron for our Facebook and Instagram.
Oh. And of course, thank you to Athena, our editor.
She's right there. She's
The Ukitti.
Ukitti! I should dress her up as a jawa for Halloween.
Let us know if you speak whatever native language Rachel was talking about earlier.
OG boy.
And let us know what you think of Princess Monkey.
Monkey.
That's the title now. This is Cameron and Rachel signing off saying, whose thighs are better, Legendary Godzilla or Rebels Tarkin?
That was actually Clone Wars Tarkin.
Okay, I'll redo it. Okay.
Whose thighs would you rather get crushed between Godzilla or Tarkin?
Oh no! Cut that out. No, not including that.
We can put that in the
after part.
the best of 2024.
Best of, yeah, the worst of, more like.